Good morning or good evening, everyone. Um, my name is Darren Holoka. I'm a psychologist, and today we're going to be talking about quarantine parenting and some tips to help us all get through what is likely a very difficult time for all of us right now. So, first, a little disclaimer. So, this presentation is a volunteer effort on behalf of the Working Group Initiative of the Ukrainian World Congress in an effort to support the community, Ukrainian community around the world during the COVID-19 quarantines in various countries and places around the world. Furthermore, this presentation does not constitute a medical or professional consultation and is intended for informational purposes only. We're broadcasting live on YouTube right now, and I'd just like to welcome everyone and point out that today is May 15, 2020, which is the UN International Day of Families. So I hope that this finds you well and that this presentation will be useful. So a little bit about me. I'm Ukrainian Canadian. I was born in Montreal, Canada. I received my PhD from the University of Massachusetts in Boston. I did a postdoctoral fellowship at the National Center for PTSD. That's at the Boston VA. After that, I was a staff psychologist at Rhode Island Hospital, and I'm currently in private practice in East Providence, Rhode Island, and I'm living in Rehoboth, Massachusetts. I have a 7-year-old daughter, Zoya, and a 3-year-old son, Oles. I've been working here from home since March 11th, so that's more than 2 months now, and I'm very pleased to report that the kids are still alive. It's been close, but so far we're still doing okay. So to begin, parenting is hard. Even during normal times, parenting is a really difficult job. Parents are constantly having to juggle multiple roles, whether they work in the home or outside of the home, managing children, their schedules, driving them here and there, practice and sports and activities. And our children are always growing. So what they need from us is oftentimes a moving target. And what your 7-year-old needs is different from what a 3-year-old needs, which is different from what a 16-year-old needs. It's a constant demand in your life. I think a lot of us would agree that parenting is a job that really defines who we are. And one of the things that a lot of us struggle with is finding a work-life balance, meaning that we're, and a lot of times people talk about this in particular with regard to moms, but that it's difficult to find a work-life balance, to feel that you're doing your job and you're working adequately at your job and simultaneously giving your children everything that they need. Now, this is just under normal times, and as we know, these are not normal times. So we're now living in something that is unprecedented for all of us. I don't think there's any one of us alive who's been through something like this before. And what that means is, for a lot of us, we're home now. I mean, I have been. I'm sitting here at my desk, and I've been at this desk for many hours of the day with kids coming in and out, and I'll warn you right now, the kids have been alerted to not come in here, but I absolutely cannot guarantee that that will happen. We'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll get a visitor later. But what that means is we have even more responsibilities now than we've ever had. You have to be, in addition to just being a regular parent, you also have to be a teacher. You might have to be a coach if your kids are still playing sports. You have to be a playmate. The house is getting messier because everyone's home, 24 hours a day, when we used to be out, most of us, for most of the day. Everyone is more stressed, which means that a lot of those emotions that ordinarily we'd be able to manage are coming more to the surface and might be harder to deal with. Multitasking is something that we all have to face now. Again, trying to work with kids' schedules, making sure that they're eating, that they're doing their homework, that they're getting adequate exercise, while simultaneously trying to do our jobs, manage household priorities, order groceries, figure out what the next meal is. And so for everyone in quarantine, there's a whole lot more demands placed on them, but even more so with regard to parents. So the other thing that I've mentioned already is that we are, for a lot of us who are not stay-at-home parents, this is kind of new, that we are in absolute constant contact with our children, 24 hours a day. Even if you're not with them, oftentimes if you're trying to do work on a business call or work on your computer, you can hear them in the next room. And it's unrelenting. And for a lot of us, this is just not something that we're used to. And the other thing that makes all of this especially difficult is that none of us knows how much longer this is going to last. Are we going to, some places are starting to open up, but even in places that are starting to reopen their economies, things are sliding back. There might be additional waves. There could be another wave in the fall, another wave in the winter. We don't know when vaccines might be ready. And all of this uncertainty contributes to a whole lot of increased stress, anxiety, and other difficult emotions in this time. So what we're going to try to do today is I'm going to give you a few tips. I'm going to try to keep them simple. Ways and strategies that you can use to hopefully make things more bearable. So number one is to establish a routine. I'm sure most parents realize that their kids do better with a routine when they can predict what things are coming next, what their day looks like. Life right now is very different. Your routines are upside down. Everybody's home every day. There's nothing to delineate weekdays from weekends, morning from afternoon. But establishing a new routine in your home can help give your children a sense of security. They like to know what's happening next, and today and tomorrow. So to have routines that repeat themselves over the course of days can be comforting to children, especially children who might be anxious. It helps to ease with transitions when you're moving from one thing to another, if they have to take a nap or get ready for bedtime, get ready for meals, especially for kids who have trouble switching from one task to another. Having it all set out well in advance. Good idea is to write these things out, maybe even have an older kid do it, write them out. What's the plan going to be for what today looks like, and put it up on a fridge or post it somewhere in your house so that everybody sees it. And you can talk about it in the morning and say, all right, so what are we doing today? What comes next? We start with, maybe some exercise, some breakfast, decide when's a good time for your children to do their schoolwork, plan around meals and things like that. Now, while a routine is good, you also want to remember to be flexible. Things can happen and things can change, and being able to be flexible in terms of addressing your children's needs can definitely help. So a routine is meant to be helpful, it's not meant to be oppressive. So if you notice that a child's maybe too sleepy to do something, you can switch gears and say, fine, we'll do schoolwork later. Maybe right now we'll go and get some exercise if they need to wake up, get a nap if they need to rest. Anyway, I think you get the point on that. Tip number 2 is boundaries. It's especially important now to have boundaries, even when roles are blurred and when it feels like physical boundaries are less there. Like a lot of times for those of us who normally work outside of the home, you have a boundary. You get in your car, you drive to work, and that's where work happens. And then when that's done, you come home, and then family happens. But now everything's happening at once in the same place. Still, it's important to try to maintain different kinds of boundaries so that you can accomplish everything that needs to get done. So for instance, if you're working from home, if at all possible, you should have a special place where you do your work. If you have an office or a part of the kitchen or some place where you have a workstation, ideally it's in a separate room with a door that you can close. And similarly, kids should have a place. They should have a place where if they have schoolwork or they have homework to do, that they have a special spot. Could be in the room, a desk, or it could be at a kitchen table. But it's good to, again, keeping with the routine thing, it's a good idea to let them have a place so that we understand that when we're in our spot for work, we respect that we're doing work. Also important is to be clear when you can spend time with your children. Letting them know, you know, Daddy has to go in the other room right now and he's doing a special thing on YouTube, so please do not come in here. And then we hope that they understand. So you can be clear about these boundaries, and it's one thing to set them, it's another thing to maintain them. So you might have to, especially with younger children, you might have to keep reminding them over and over and over, but being clear about it, and say, okay, so Daddy has a phone call now, I'll be available in an hour or at whatever time, you know, at 11:30 I will be available and we can go for a walk or something like that, so that they have something to look forward to and it doesn't, again, feel sort of as chaotic where they don't know what's going on from one moment to the next. You should also praise them, especially the little ones. Praise them for letting you do your work when you have to. Just that simple act of positive reinforcement to let them know, thank you very much, I appreciate it, you're being a good kid, you're doing a good job, that goes a long way. And then also when it comes to boundaries, it's important to carve out some time for yourself to do adult things, to have adult conversations. Make sure that you spend time with your spouse where you're allowed to talk about the goings on of the day, even when there are kids all over the place, but also to talk about how everything's going in terms of parenting, in terms of the kids. And it's also good to reach out to other adults so that it's not just work and kids all the time. So reaching out to friends or family, you know, talking on the phone or FaceTime or whatever other apps you might have for video chats, that can also be very helpful to make sure that you're getting everything that you need, while also attending to your children's needs. Yes, screen time. So we've all been warned, and I'm sure you've seen many articles all over the place which are warning you about the perils of screens and how they're destroying our children and ruining their attention spans and all of that sort of thing. And of course that's true to an extent. But I want to let everyone know that these are not normal times. And you know, their tablet or their laptop or what have you, it's not going to kill them. And it's okay to relax the rules. It's okay to let them spend more time in front of a screen, whether it's television or a computer or what have you, than they normally would. This is just how it is right now, and we're all trying to do what we can to get by. And I'm telling you that it's okay. They can watch more TV. It's not going to be the end of the world. It is better if you can try to include things like educational games or educational shows, you know, so that it's not all blam blam violent cartoons. But again, it's okay to relax those rules. It's still important to have some kind of limits, right? They shouldn't absolutely be watching TV all day long or all night long. So there have to be some limits, but it's okay right now during this to relax whatever rules you usually have. So as I mentioned before, we have a lot of responsibilities, and we have more responsibilities now, and a lot of that simply has to do with parenting. Kids take up a lot of energy, and you can't do it all on your own. So if you have a spouse at home or a partner who lives with you or family members, a good idea is to make sure that you're sharing the responsibilities, right? Everybody needs a break from time to time. So talking about it with your partner or the people that you live with about figuring out how to hand off responsibility and say, okay, you know what, now I'm taking a break, I'm on break, you're in charge of the kids for the next hour or two, and I can get some work done, or I can clean up the house, or I can just, you know, have some me time to relax that we all sort of need in the middle of all of this. Another thing that's important is to realize that, you know, there's more to do at home. The business of running a household is much more complicated now than it was a couple of months ago. So everybody has to pitch in, including the kids. So I think, you know, giving kids age-appropriate tasks is a help for you, but it's also good for children to develop a sense of responsibility that maybe they didn't have before, and this can be a good opportunity for that. And a note about parents working outside the home. This is a thing that's come up with several of my patients recently, where there's one parent, usually a mom, who's been either furloughed or laid off for the time being, and she's home with all the kids. And the father goes off to work all day and comes home and sort of has an expectation that, well, you've been home all day. The parent who's been home has been home all day, so the house should be clean and the kids should be washed and dinner should be on the table and all of that sort of thing. But I think it's important to recognize that spending time and raising kids all day and doing the homework and being the coach and managing all of these schedules is just as much work, if not more work, than going to an adult job. And even the parent who's working outside of the house, they have to pull their weight too. Everyone has to pull their weight. Everyone needs to pitch in. Again, this is an all hands on deck kind of thing. And these are things that need to be talked about amongst parents to figure out how you're going to manage all of that. So, with all of these demands, I know there was another presentation about self-compassion and self-care, but I want to remind all of you parents about it again. So first of all, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. This is not looking like it's going to be over anytime in the near future, and you know, there could be multiple waves. We could be doing this again in a few months. So the thing is, this is a long-term project. And one of the things that I say to my patients all the time is that if you don't put gas in your tank, you'll eventually break down. So we only have so much energy, kind of emotional, psychic energy that we have to manage all of the things that we have to manage, all of the stressors that we have to manage. And we have a lot of them right now. So it's important to make sure to take care of yourself, because like they say I know no one's been on an airplane in a while, but if you can remember the last time you were, that's what they tell you, right? Put on your own mask before helping someone else with their mask. Because if you can't take care of you, if you're falling apart, if you're overwhelmed, if you start getting, clinical symptoms of anxiety or depression, you're not going to be a good parent and you're not going to be able to help the rest of your family. So you need to make time for yourself. Just little bits here and there. Take a break. Get outside or get away from the home for a while if you can. If you can take a drive or a walk away from the kids is a good idea. I have been recommending to everyone, either with or without the kids, get outside when the weather's nice. Getting some fresh air. Kids who get exercise are easier to manage. Getting some sun on your face, looking at some trees or flowers is just overall good for you psychologically. And other things that feel good. Just anything that makes you feel good. Things that feel pleasant or pleasurable, things that are fun or entertaining or peaceful. Everybody's different, and some people have hobbies, some people have things that they like to do. Could be music, could be dancing, could be games, could be television, a nice hot shower. It doesn't matter what the thing is. This is how you put gas in your tank. You need to do things that rejuvenate you, that kind of charge you up, so that you have that energy to later on deal with all of the stressors that are inevitably going to happen later on. So you don't want to run out of gas, because then you'll just break down and you're not any good to anybody. And an important class of things that you can do to make you feel better is staying in touch with people who are supportive to you. That could be friends or family, other parents. And being supportive means talking about the challenges that you're facing or the things that are difficult for you, and realizing that we're sort of all in it together, and that everybody else is having a hard time, and that that's okay. And feeling that support from other people can definitely help you get through some of the rougher times. Now, right, here's the other thing. Kids are stressed out too. Children don't always show psychological distress, or often they don't show it the same way adults do. But if you look at them carefully, I'm sure you can tell that your kids are stressed. So their lives have been completely disrupted too. They don't have their routines, they're not going to school, they're not seeing friends, they're feeling cooped up in your home or your apartment, wherever you live, and everything is different. And they also, I'm sure a lot of you know this, but kids are really good at picking up on things like this. They know when their parents are stressed out. They hear their parents talking about things. There are words that people are using that maybe they don't fully understand, but they can tell that everyone's worried, that everybody's stressed out. And kids internalize that. And that's okay, but you have to understand that all of this adds to their stress. And so, as I was saying, they show it differently. Some of the things that your kids might do is they might regress. So that could be things that they used to be great at. If you had a kid who was potty trained, maybe now they're having accidents. If they're, I don't know what else. They act more childlike, or things that they used to be able to do for themselves, now they're saying that they can't do for themselves. Skills that they had acquired, somehow they seem to have lost. And this is a thing that happens when kids are getting stressed out. They're having to juggle all of these things. One thing that probably I would suspect everyone is seeing is there's more acting out. So kids aren't going to show anxiety by saying, oh, I'm really anxious, or sitting there nervous and biting their nails, although they might. We see a lot in kids of defiance, more tantrums. Kids are maybe more emotionally reactive. Things that ordinarily wouldn't bother them or you wouldn't think should bother them are now becoming the end of the world. And it's important to understand that and to try to be compassionate with them. Some other things you might see is especially littler ones sort of acting like a baby. Wanting to be held or play act like they're a baby. And that's okay. It's okay to let them have that. It's a way for them to feel taken care of. It's a way for them to feel like you want your children to understand that you get it, that they're not trying to be more difficult, that everybody's having a hard time, and that that's okay. So I say this up front to try to help you understand, because if you can understand that a child isn't misbehaving just because, or I don't know, just to make your life a living hell, if you can understand that this is a whole lot of them responding to the same kind of stressors that we all are, maybe that makes it a little bit easier to deal with. So one of the things that you can do when you realize that your kids are stressed out is you can try to talk to them. Depending on their age, they might express things differently. But it's okay. I mean, a good thing is to check in about how they're feeling, asking them. Your kids might have, they might be able to articulate how they're feeling, what bothers them, what are they afraid of, and they might have, or not. Little kids might not be able to. But if your children do have questions, it's important to answer them honestly, factually, but briefly. You don't need to go on and give children more information than they need. Just get straight to the point. If they have a question, answer it in an age-appropriate way. Tell them the truth. And if they have more questions, they'll ask. You don't need to, give them more information than they need. So when you're talking to them, when you're dealing with them, an important thing to do is to try to model appropriate emotion regulation, which means handling your emotions. So, if a child sees you being anxious, it's okay to say, yep, you know what, mommy's worried right now, but it's going to be okay. Here's what I'm going to do to take care of it. Here's how I'm going to calm down. You might show them how to take a deep breath, or to sit and do something relaxing, or to reach out for a hug, or some kind of other physical comfort. But to show them that feelings are okay, they're normal, and we can manage them. They don't have to be that scary. For some kids, they might get afraid if you suddenly disappear. These are for kids who might be especially anxious. So it's a good idea to let them know before you leave the house so that they don't get confused and wonder where you are and cause unnecessary stress. Other things you can do is give them extra hugs and kisses, tell them you love them, tell them, just be there for them. And again, and further, that can look like special one-on-one time. If you have more than one child, it's a good idea sometimes to just spend time with them one-on-one. So, for instance, sometimes I'll go instead of taking both kids on a walk, I'll go for a walk with just my daughter. And we can talk about different things, and we can do things sort of that she wants to do. So making time out, or time in, they call them, time ins with kids, one-on-one is another way to kind of increase their resilience. Keeping in touch with family, extended family who might not live with you is another great way to keep kids healthy. So staying in touch with other loved ones, with close friends or grandparents, cousins. Again, we have, as you can see, we have a whole lot of technology right now, and we should use it, because feelings of isolation are hard not only for parents but also for kids. And if you have the technology, it's a great idea to use it to stay in touch. That can also help give kids a bit of a sense of normalcy more than usual. Now, some of the times your kids are going to misbehave and they're going to cross the line, and you're going to need to discipline them. So this is general advice, but particularly now. Discipline should focus on rewards and giving of privileges rather than punishments. So we're talking about positive reinforcement. So when kids are behaving well, offer them praise. Tell them what a great job they're doing. Wow, you're such a big kid. You're doing such a great job. I really appreciate that. When kids get bored, a lot of times they'll start getting into trouble. So trying to redirect them rather than confronting them is a lot of times a much easier way to deal with a problem behavior, and say, okay, all right, how about let's leave this, and why don't we go do this for now? Like, why don't we go watch a show, or why don't we go outside, or why don't we play a game, rather than focusing on the thing that's giving them trouble. And then, of course, if they just won't listen, sometimes, things go too far. Timeouts is generally regarded as the best form of punishment. It's important to first give them a warning, let them know, okay, if you do this one more time, you're going to go in a timeout. And then it's important to be the 3 C's: calm, consistent, consequences. So if a child misbehaves and you say, look, if you do this one more time, you're going to have to go to your room, or you're going to have to go in the corner for a timeout. When they do it again, try as much as you can to not raise your voice, not shout, just say, nope, now it's time for you to do this. And for kids to recognize that rules are really there and they're meant to be followed, you need to be consistent. So if there's a rule and you say, if every time they do this, you're going to go in timeout, you have to make sure to be consistent within yourself and consistent in the family. So it's important that mom and dad, or both parents, are on the same page about what the rules are and what the consequences are. Some recent research is suggesting that time-ins can really help with helping kids to be more pliable, to be more obedient, to be more easy just to get along with. So it's suggesting that just 10 or 15 minutes a day, it doesn't have to be long, of child-centered play, meaning that you sit with them and they get to do whatever they want to do. They make the rules, they decide what's going to happen for those 10 or 15 minutes, whether it's a game or different ways that they want to play with you. Whatever it is that they want to do, you do that. And research is showing that just even 10 or 15 minutes a day of child-centered play increases overall well-being in a child and the relationship and the attachment. So that's a really easy way to help increase, or to help de-stress and to help everyone manage a little bit better. So an important note here is when it comes to discipline, to avoid physical punishment. Research has shown that physical punishment is not only ineffective, but it causes more problems over time, various kinds, in terms of attachment, in terms of development, in terms of children's behaviors. They tend to become more aggressive over time, not surprisingly, if they're dealt with aggression. So again, focus on the positive reinforcement. When they do need a punishment, keep it to timeouts. So if children's behaviors are getting way out of control, and sometimes that happens, sometimes things can be more than we as parents can handle. That can be if your child has a pre-existing issue already, or if behaviors are getting so out of control that they're starting to become violent or dangerous. If you're not sure whether or not things are getting out of hand, it's always wise to consult a professional. So I know here in the US, I assume in Canada and in other countries around the world, people are doing way more telehealth right now, and I know that a lot of child therapists are doing that. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to have a consultation. What you can do is try to set up an appointment and see what a professional has to say. They may say that, look, your kid is totally normal right now. This is them going through what we're all going through. Or they might recommend therapy, short term or longer term. They might recommend other interventions. But again, don't be shy. If you think that you might need a professional, it's a good idea just to have a consultation and see how it goes. And the last thing, the last tip, my biggest tip, is acceptance. So look, you're not at your best. Everybody's having a hard time right now, and it's normal to be anxious. If you weren't worried about what's going on in the world right now, like that would be a problem. Then I would be concerned. You should be anxious. This is a normal response to all of the uncertainty and awfulness that's happening in the world right now. With all the stuff that you're having to do at home, it's normal to be frustrated or angry or sad or all kinds of feelings. They're all totally normal. The thing is, we might have a temptation as parents especially to kind of try and be strong, and put on a brave face and all that sort of thing. But the reality is, if you bottle up your emotions for too long, things get worse. We bottle them up and up and up until it gets to be too much, and then it explodes, and that's not helpful. So a good thing to do is to try to find time to talk to people about your feelings, whether that's a spouse or a close friend or a family member. Talk about it. Let it out. Be with other people who are going through the same thing. We support. That's how we'll deal with it in the long run. Because again, as I said, this is a marathon. We're going to be doing this for a while. So we have to find healthy ways to manage all of those feelings. And look, you got to go easy on yourself. You cannot do it all. You absolutely can't. There's too much on our plates. And so just let it go. Let go of these expectations of being a perfect parent. Because first of all, it never existed. And second of all, you can't do it right now, even if it were possible. So just let it go. Adequate parenting is adequate. There's good enough parenting. And if what you're doing is good enough, then that's good enough and the kids are going to be fine. So take it easy. Take some of the stress off yourself. It's okay to make mistakes and just keep trying. So that's it for my presentation today. I want to thank you all for your attention. If you have any questions, you can post them in the chat. We might have viewers from all over the world. We might have viewers in Ukraine. So якщо ви маєте питання, можна так само їх записати по-українськи. Я можу відповісти по-українськи, якщо вам зручніше. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Like I said, I had a little visitor, as I expected would happen. So that's it. If anyone has any questions, please feel free, and I'm happy to answer them. Okay, so I'm looking at a question. So question from Ludmila about how to cope with my teenage son who doesn't want to focus on positive things. It's a little bit hard to know without without more information. But a teenager is going to have a difficult time right now because they're able to, first of all, understand more what's going on in the world, and they might be affected more by things in the news or an understanding of what's going on. And that might lead, the same way that we all have, to more negativity. The thing is, teenagers also probably have lost more, because when you look at an adolescent, their life revolves not so much at that stage in their life around family ordinarily, it revolves around their friends. So not being able to be in touch with friends, not being able to do the things that they usually do that perhaps define them, right? These are other things. Adolescence is a time when kids are developing their own identity. And being prevented from doing that, prevented from doing the things that normally keep them occupied, it's easy for them to get down. So I don't know from your question exactly how negative he is, but if he is being very negative, you might want to think about getting a consultation and having him talk to someone. But in terms of just trying to, I guess, to stay positive, I think what I usually recommend is that there should be a balance, right? Because if there's someone right now going through all of this who's just unrelentingly positive, that's probably not accurate. I think it's okay for them to be negative, for them to be scared, but then what you also want to try to do is communicate with them about how, point out what some of the bright sides are. Maybe it's good that, we have more time together, point out all of the things that haven't been lost that they still can do. And I guess, again, if it really, like if you start to think that maybe what might be happening is a kid might be depressed, and adolescent depression is a fairly common thing, and I wouldn't be surprised in this kind of an environment, if that were a thing to happen, that you might think about consulting someone. I hope that's helpful. So I don't know if there are any other questions now. I'm trying to contact my producer. Okay, so for anyone, so this will be posted online. This will be posted here on the YouTube channel. So if you're watching this after this live broadcast, I was going to say, if you're watching this after the live broadcast, you can still post questions in the chat, and I'll try to circle back and answer them as best I can. But it does look like we have at least another question or two. Let's see. Ще одне питання. Якщо дитина, тінейджер, не хоче ходити в гості, ну, то залежить, якщо дитина не хоче їхати в гості, то залежить з якої причини. Я би запитав просто, з якої причини тінейджер не хоче. Це він лише хоче сидіти вдома своїми справами. Чи це нормально? Так, це нормально відносно тінейджерів з цілого світу. Звичайно, вони не всі, але багато їх, їм так дуже просто. Вони хочуть сидіти вдома, грати будь-які гри на комп'ютері, займатися тим текст-меседж своїми товаришами. Чи потрібно його вмовляти? Якщо він не хоче йти в гості, я би запитав, з якої причини. Якщо то дійсно, якщо то така проста справа, що йому не хочеться з ніякої причини, що він він просто хоче сидіти вдома, тоді можна казати, ні, зараз ми всі йдемо, є такі вимоги щодо сім'ї, щодо родини, і ми змусимо часами такі речі робити. Але якщо, то може і бути з іншої причини. Може він боїться, я не знаю, як у вас карантин зараз, може і тінейджер бояться вірусу. Спочатку я б запитав, точно з якої причини. І якщо причина є просто байдужість чи щось такого, я думаю, що можна казати, ні, ми всі разом йдемо і таке буде. Надіюся, що це помогло. І дякую ще раз за ті питання, пані Людмила. Я лише перевіряю, чи є ще інші питання. О, є ще одна. Ще одне. Скільки часу може дитина проводити в смартфоні? Увесь час на карантині грається на смартфоні і будує інші світи. Окей, і це тебе турбує. Ну, так як я згадував перед тим, наскільки часу? Я не хочу дуже казати, скільки годин чи хвилин дитина повинна бути на смартфоні. Але в принципі, ви мали якісь правила щодо смартфон перед карантиною. Так що я згадував перед тим, що можна тепер зараз їм дозволити більше на смартфоні, чи на комп'ютері, чи на телевізії подивитися. Але якщо, так як ви згадуєте, якщо це постійно, чи не весь час, чи не цілий день, то вже забагато. Тоді, я думаю, що що поможе дитині, є мати інші такі речі. Так що, якщо буде такий склад дня, що вона має задачі, чи домашні завдання, чи інші завдання до школи, щоб вона робила не лише на смартфоні, щоб вона читала, щоб вона гуляла, може, на дворі, і щоб вона знала, що смартфон то не на весь час, і не завжди може ним бавитися. І тут в нас в хаті ми замітили, що коли вони занадто на тих екранах, що поведінка згіршується. Так що ми часами буває, що ми кажемо, вже, все, все заключимо, йдемо на двір, йдемо щось інше робити, чи читати, чи бавитися на дворі, чи бавитися, своїми речами, забавками, то що я хотів казати. То я не скажу, що є певний такий час, котрий найліпший, але якщо на вашу увагу, то вже забагато, бодай, щоб дитина робила інші речі впродовж дня і не лише сиділа на одній такій смартфоні. Надіюся, що поможе. Ага. То ще одне питання. So kids will eventually be going back to school. How can we support them in transitioning back after the long break? So that's a really good question. That's not something, honestly, that's been on my mind because around here they've said that the schools will not be opening for the rest of the school year. So maybe they'll go back in September, but I suppose we'll have to see. It'll have to be a similar kind of process. When everything changes again, their whole world would be upside down again. And I think you'll want to do exactly the same things. You'll want to be understanding about how you'll probably see some changes again. You'll probably see some difficulties in behaviors and in, and in schoolwork and their attention, right? I mean, I think if you think about what it's like when the kids come home for the summer, usually they're out for a couple of months and then transitioning back into school, can be difficult, but it can also be exciting. So, I would focus on the positives, about how great it will be to see their friends again, to be able to see their teachers or new teachers. And but again, if there are problems, I think you want to talk to them in age-appropriate ways about what's going on, what the expectations are. If and when they do go back to school, there's going to be, I assume, a lot of different rules in terms of social distancing and other things that, everyone says when we go back to normal, it's not going to be normal. Things will look different. So again, I think what you want to do is you want to talk to your kids, see what concerns they have, see what problems they're having, and help them to stay on task and establish those new routines in the same way that's what we're trying to do now, and remind them that we've done it before and that we'll do it again. Again, hope that's helpful. So it seems like that might be it. Okay. Seems like those are all the questions that we have for now. So I'll sign off now. Again, if you're someone who's watching this after the live stream is finished, feel free to add additional questions, and I'll try to come back and answer them as I can. So thank you, everyone, for your attention, and thank you to the Ukrainian World Congress, for inviting me to do this. I hope this is helpful, and I wish you all the very best as parents and as people. І як українці цілого світу, wishing you all the best, and stay safe and be kind and take care of one another through this. We'll all get through it. Thanks very much. Bye.